Hello, good evening. I am Sava. This is Sava Talk Spurs. Apologies if anyone for the last 18 minutes has been waiting to watch. This was not a planned 18 minutes make you wait. StreamYard or YouTube or something died on me and we had to start a whole new program. Anyway, we are here. I have with me a returning guest, Josh from at Spurs Live. Josh, how are you, my friend? Are you good?
All good, all good, all good.
Good man. Like it, short and sweet. And X-Duo Max making his debut. Mate, seen you on a few streams. Love your content. How are you?
I'm very well. Firstly, I'm hoping you can hear me properly. Can you hear me loud and clear?
We can.
Good. That's always a good start. But yeah, it's lovely to be on the channel. Thanks for having me. I'm sure we can talk all things Spurs. And yeah, looking forward to the start of the season. And let's get some opinions underway.
Absolutely. So listen, just quickly, first of all, thank you to everyone who's in the show. All I ever ask is for a few things that are absolutely free. Please subscribe to myself, to X-Duo Match, to Spurs Live, and like the like button. It costs you nothing to press the like button and it helps us massively. Also, if anyone does want to make any super chats, any super stickers, please note that 50% of all the donations do go to the British Heart Foundation. I'm all about the charity, so please feel free to do that. Max, let me dive in with you. 6 signings. This is uncharted territory for Spurs at this stage in the season. I'm sure we'll all have varied opinions on the calibre or what we need if we need a lot more. But this is uncharted. Do we feel a bit more ready than we normally would? And how excited are you for the season to be getting underway?
I'm excited, just like every other Spurs fan. It's just completely different to what any of us have seen in the past. We're so used to, obviously, back end of the transfer window. Sorry, I thought if I can hear an echo, apologies my end. Obviously,
no, we can hear.
It's nice to not think going into the season. Oh, we need 5-6 players. Oh, we don't look good enough. We're not strengthening. We're getting deals done. We're getting deals done weekly. I mean, obviously with Spence getting over the line today, we've seen it's unbelievable. Some of the players are actually being linked with, and it's all because of the manager. Like, this doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen overnight. We thought it was going to happen with Mourinho. I remember I say this all the time. I was so excited when he came in, but the fact that Conte's done what he's done in the space of 8-9 months, he's brought in some big names. He's got big names from clubs. He's taken their best players. Basuma, one of that deal, 25 million or 30 million. Like, that is unbelievable business. Richarlison, who every Evertonian absolutely loved to bits. I mean, he was there. You could argue he was their best player as well. So, do you know what? We're getting deals done. It's exciting. We're a couple of players away from potentially challenging. And this is where I say it. I've said it before. It could be putting us in contention with the likes of Man City, Liverpool, if we go about it the right way. We're not there yet, but you have to get there somehow, and we've got the foundations right so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Josh, talk to me. Are you on the same level? I mean, as Max has said, you have to get there. So for you, Josh, are we nearly there, or are we just somewhere along that road to getting there? And how close? What's your opinions, mate?
In my opinion, I think we're like you said, we're somewhere on the road. I mean, I definitely think it's closer than ever. In terms of the transfer signings, a lot of us are saying, we haven't experienced this before. We haven't experienced signing 6 players going into pre-season. But, okay, flip it to the other side. The Premier League have not experienced Tottenham Hotspur getting into the Premier League with 6 new signings. They've never experienced that. They've never experienced Tottenham Hotspur coming into the season with 6 class signings, like above decent signings. And as much as we can say, it's gonna be a good season, we can do this. The other teams are like, oh my God, damn it! Now we've got Tottenham now. It's not like every other season where your front three is more Son and Kane. Your front three. Your midfield is probably Eriksen, Dembele, and Moussa Sissoko. You don't know that this time. You could be surprised. One time, Basuma and Skip could start. Another time, Højbjerg and I don't know. And Bentancur could start. Like, it's a big variation. I think the league, as much as we're not ready, as much as we haven't experienced it, the league hasn't experienced, and that's a big step for me.
Okay, Okay, so I mean, I won't tell you my thoughts for a bit because we'll leave that for a little bit later. But Max, I think that's a great point, isn't it? Especially if we look at that midfield area. I almost feel like until Bentancur joined, it felt very much like Højbjerg was. I mean, he gets a lot of stick, Højbjerg, but for me, I feel like he's almost carried on midfield for 2 years. He's played alongside Lo Celso, who didn't work out, Ndombele, who didn't work out, Winks, who, not quite good enough, Skip, who was promising, got injured, Sissoko, who, I hope it was just not good enough. And now it's kind of like, okay, he must be looking around and going, right, I don't have to play every God-given minute of football. What sort of a plus is that going to be, having those 4 as our central midfield options? And a second part to that question, Max, as good as that 4 is as a midfield 4, is there enough creativity in there? Is there enough ball playing in there that can see us through 4 competitions?
Well, firstly, I'll answer the creativity question. And I'm going to hit you straight away with a no. I still feel like we need a bit more creativity in midfield. And that's why when Bentancur came, obviously no one knew what to expect. It was like when it was the double signing, obviously, from Juve. Apparently, they're meant to be like their worst players. Ended up being arguably 2 of our starters that you put in every team towards the back end of last season. I think it just shows you some players have like a new lease of life going to another club. Bentancur, his first game, little bit of trickery, the flair with his feet, like. The crowd are on their feet. They appreciate that. We haven't had someone who's been able to come in and do that for a long time. We all thought it was going to be Ndombele. He ended up playing 10 minutes a game and just not really setting the world on fire. Annoyingly, Ndombele had everything about him other than the fitness side of things and his attitude. If he had them down, honestly, you could argue him and Pogba are very similar in terms of like their attitude, the way they go about it. They want to be the first one walking out of the tunnel, basically, every game being the main man. But I still feel like there's room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. We're saying season after season, the big guns, they don't stop signing players. Like, you've got to keep signing big names each season, even if it's just 1 or 2 to keep going. We're at the stage where we've needed strength all around the pitch, and it's about time we've forked out this war chest of money, so to speak. I mean, going back to what you were saying, obviously, we've seen some right muppets in that midfield. Like, there's no lie, and it will be nice just to see which 2 start or which 3 start. Because if it's just 2 in midfield, we're gonna have quite a few ballers in that midfield. Like, who do you match? It's like a pick mix. You don't know who's going to be starting in that midfield at times, but it's exciting. Like, I don't want to know the team when you can name the lineup every week.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
It's too predictable. It's too obvious.
And boring.
This is why I know I'm going off topic, but even getting like Lenley at centre back, like, he's only on loan, but he's someone that can play the ball at feet. If the game plan's not working, it's just a different option. You're looking at the bench. How many times we look at the bench and we're not seeing any options? We're seeing like Nkudu. We're seeing players like that aren't going to start that.
He was never given a chance, Max. He could have been the best player in the world.
Nkudu whipped a ball in and Winks scored at Fulham at Craven Cottage, and that's the best thing he done for us.
Yeah.
But no, it's just nice. It's nice. I don't know how else to wrap it up other than we've got.
Well, look, you're clearly excited for it. It's good to see. It's good to see. Listen, look, I may have very different opinions, but that doesn't mean I don't like seeing Spurs fans excited for it. I come at it from a different point of view, so I'm gonna put my spin into it before I ask you a question, Josh.
Are you going to say don't get carried away?
No, listen. I think. Look, you can tell from the lines on my forehead. I'm older than you two. I think considerably older than Josh and Max. Yeah. You're probably early 20s, mid 20s.
I'm 28 actually. I thought I was.
Oh, mate, listen, you look great for it. You look great for it, right? Look, for me, I feel like we've had a good window. If I say good. What I would like to see is I just want to see a couple of signings that make me go, yeah, that's why we got Champions League. So, again, because I said I wasn't excited about Spence, doesn't mean I think he's a bad player. It just means I just want to be excited. You know, I want that.
I totally agree.
That Maddison, that that even if it's a Zaniolo or a Milenkovic-Savic, not all of them. I'm not saying we need 9 world-class signings, but Josh, do you get what I'm saying when I say that? That I feel like I think we've done enough to be in a race with, at the moment, in a race with Chelsea.
Okay.
I still think there's obviously a very long way to go to City and Liverpool, but some fans, not you guys, some fans are saying, well, why not? 93, 94 points, it's doable. Have we done enough for that, Josh?
I'm not sure if we've done enough for 90, 93 points. It's never been the case. The only time we've actually been able to get closer to finishing top of the league was when we lost to Chelsea, I'm pretty sure, and then when Chelsea scored a goal from Eden Hazard, and that took us down. But the point that I'm trying to make is that 90s, 80s, that's not the points we're going to get to. We're not going to get to 90s, 93 points like Man City and Liverpool consistently do. In terms of what you said before about these transfers and getting to Champions League, I think there would be transfers that most of the transfers we've done this window, in my opinion, I think we could have done them without getting Champions League football. I think it would be much harder. Don't get me wrong. It would be even 10 times harder. But the fact is, Spence, for example, in my opinion, I think we could have gotten him without Champions League football. Lenglet, we could have gotten him without Champions League football. Perisic, without Champions League football. Maybe Basuma and Richarlison not. But there's a lot of transfers that we could have gotten without Champions League. Now that Champions League is in our court, now we've got to access that Keens and be okay, let's go for a Dybala. Now I know he went to Roma, but let's go for a Dybala. Let's go for an elite player, because that's what we need. We need that sort of player.
Okay, so Max, just before I come to you, I do like to go through some of the chats. I've seen some good ones. I've seen some bad ones. Let's start with Charles has said all the signings are great additions to the squad strength and depth. Not all are wow signings, but it's about progression, and we're better off now than we were last season. Football for Herrera has said, no, it's not enough. You need more creativity. As I said many times, then you can think of winning a trophy. It's a good school of thought. Luan, who's a Man United fan, welcome to the stream, Luan. I welcome every fan into even the Arsenal fans are welcome him. We should all remember the transfer window also means sold players, not only bought players. We will touch upon that in a minute, lads. Freddie, SP, welcome back. Freddie has said, we need creativity from the middle. It can be predictable, only having the fullbacks providing creativity. Then we've got Georgios, my fellow Greek, apparently, who said, Sava doesn't understand Conte's system. The 3-4-3 baffles me, Georgios. You are correct. Creativity is expected from our wing backs and the front three. We play transitional football under Conte, which doesn't require our midfielders to provide creativity. On that note, Max, I hear this a lot. I hear, Sava, you don't get the formation and Conte's teams. When I look at Conte's teams, I look at an Inter Milan team that had people that could put their foot on the ball, dictate and assist, like a Barella. Mm-hmm. His Juve teams had Pogba's Pirlos, right? His Chelsea team, the famous team that won the league, had Fabregas, who scored 5 goals and 12 assists in that season. So I don't buy this whole notion that Conte doesn't want anyone in the midfield that can create. What's your feelings on that, Max?
I think you've seen like the back end of last season. The reason we ended up actually getting Champions League football is we're actually playing how Conte wants us to play. We're playing this whole wing back situation. Like, it looks suited under him. It looks like if you actually get the game plan right and you get in the players that you want in the team and the signings, they're all good on the ball. This is why it is sickening and it's so annoying when we've got players there that aren't interested, because Ndombele, I've said it before, Lo Celso, they've done well elsewhere, but why can't they be suited in this squad? So he's got to go out there, he's got to find someone that suits our style of play, maybe someone who's worked with before, but this is why he's got Perisic in. He knows he can trust him. He knows he's got a workhorse out on that left-hand side and potentially left wing if needs be. And I've seen people even slating him, we haven't even seen him yet. And he's another signing. He's gone very under the radar, I tell you. So when Conte, at the moment, it's like whoever he wants, he can get because the power he's got. People know he's won things in the past. They've seen, they want to come, they want to play with the likes of Son and Kane up front as well.
Right.
You know what? But that position in midfield, it's going to be a big one. I mean, I know everyone in the chat and people saying, we could be linked with X, Y, and Z. I'm seeing Maddison pop up recently. I don't even know if there's any tier 1 or 2s related to that. But could he be the player? Is that the sort of player that Conte likes? We know that he likes, like I was mentioning, Lenglet, players that are just good on the ball, not going to take any crap. That's why he's brought in Richarlison. But like we saw, there was a tackle the other day, and Richarlison and Romero was straight there. He likes physical players.
Yeah,
I think we've got plenty of time. Maybe he's gone out and thought, you know what, let's get the business done in areas of the pitch where I know we need to strengthen, because he knows we can score goals. We don't have a problem with that. But that key player in midfield that can pick a pass and not rely on Kane to have to drop 30 yards back to make that pass, right? So if we can find someone, go on.
No, I was going to say this is it for me. For me, it's not a case of understanding a Conte formation. For me, it's about having options, right? So I think the one problem we had last year, which was in the games it worked, it was great, and we tended to batter teams, right? So when teams come out and play, like Everton did against us, Leeds did against us, right? We stick 3, 4, 5 past these teams. My concern, and Max go and then Josh after, and just quickly, by the way, there's 150 people in the show and only 48 likes. Come on, get your finger, click like, it is free. My worry about not having any difference from those 4 in the middle, Max, is that it doesn't allow us, other than Kane dropping deep, it doesn't allow us for those teams that play the low block, as the kids call it these days, what I call a good defence, but a low block, somebody that can unlock that defence. Because against teams like Burnley, Wolves,
solid teams,
we saw that when Son and Kane can't get in behind and they have to play in front of a back 4, we struggle a little bit. And my point is this year we're going to be playing, not only we're going to be playing teams like that, but we're now going to be playing week in, week out against very strong, experienced Champions League teams that defend very well. So that's it for me, Max. What, do you agree to that? Do you subscribe to that, or is there just no place for a playmaker?
I think we've always been able to. We've proven that we can break out from the back like quickly. We've been able to do that, especially against the likes of Man City and the teams that, like you said, press us, because we unlock we unlock them chances. The teams that sit back, 10 in the box, like when we've lost to Burnley's, when we've lost to the Brightons, when we've lost to Southampton, Wolves at home, the teams that are just, they don't care about scoring. They're either happy to get the point or nick a late goal. I mean, this is what it comes down to, just getting players in that have got the experience, players that will work under Conte, and he wants to be able to, he might start with that formation. But if the second he needs to change it up and go maybe a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1 just to switch things up, these next couple of signings, because I do believe there will be players for that, because it's all about squad rotation, especially when you're playing against Champions League sides as well. So that's it. You can't just have one game plan. And we have done good business, like Perchy's just saying. I just feel like, and Sav, you hit it nail on the head. You look at the signings, and it is really good squad rotation players, and arguably ones that are going to go straight into the side. But is there someone there that can unlock that defense, who can turn up pick a pass out of absolutely nowhere, 80th minute, not been on the ball, but one pass to unlock a defense? That's what we're missing still.
No, I agree with you, Josh. We've seen, if we look at players of that ilk, of what Max was just saying, we've seen Christian Eriksen, who divided opinions massively as to whether or not we'd want him back. He's gone to Man United. We've seen Dybala, who was another clever, tricky player. He's just gone to Roma. Roma have now got him, Pellegrini, Zaniolo. They've got for a Jose Mourinho team, they've got a lot of flair. All the talk seems to be, and again, is it fan talk? Is it rumours? Is it all these ITKs? Seems to be around Paqueta, Maddison, and Fekir seems to have reared his head.
Yeah.
Are any of them gettable? Are any of them good enough? And do they fit a Conte system?
So the thing I've had from the beginning of the transfer, I don't know if you've heard me say this, but for me, there's, like you said, there's a lot of divided opinions regarding Eriksen, and I just don't understand if we're going for a player who we want to open up the space, we want to create assists, create chances, and go back to defending at the exact same time. Why don't we just get Eriksen? It's hard for me to understand that. He understands Tottenham in general. We'll be signing. Yes, there's benefits of getting Maddison. You know, he's an England international player. He's a fantastic baller. He's a creative midfielder. There's obviously positives about Zaniolo. Young, got energy. He has flair. He's physically very, very strong. So I think if there's one we could go for, it will probably be Zaniolo. But Eriksen would be the one that I would have loved to get. And I just want to go back to the thing you said beforehand, Sav, about the wing backs. You know, and I agree with you, Max. You know, there's been times last season when we could not win a game because it's simple, because our wing backs were not good enough. Like, it's not like we could have put in there a nice Ndombele to create stuff in the midfield. There was no such thing. Our wing backs just weren't good enough. Therefore, there was no creativity. The only player who could get the assists, get the creativity inside the whole team was our main striker, the person who's supposed to be fighting for the golden boot. So obviously, we'll be losing so many games if these wing backs aren't good enough. Now that we're looking for Maddison, it's going to bring different perspectives into the match and be like, Antonio Conte will think to himself, okay, we're about to play Burnley. Do I start Perisic and Jed Spence, or do I start Maddison in there, or would it be too attacking? Like, he's got variations of players.
Options.
Yeah, so that's really it.
Okay. So let's move on from that, Max. We're going to talk about Spence in a minute, but I want to talk about depth. Now, I think the difference, I said a difference, but the Liverpools, the Chelseas, the Inter Milans, the Bayern Munichs, the Madrids, the Barças, they notoriously have depth. Yeah, it's a case of, okay, Man City got Fulham at the weekend, right? De Bruyne, Foden, Diaz, Rodri, you will come and sit on the bench and be fresh for Juventus midweek. Personally, I still don't think we've got that in abundance. I don't think we've got that. So the question I had for you two was this. As the squad stands at the moment, and we can only answer for now, right? Before everyone in the chat goes, the window's still open, I'm aware. From an attacking standpoint, let's just assume Kane, Son, Kulusevski starts. Other than Richarlison, who's coming off that bench, Max, in really tight games and in Champions League games in a 5-sub season that's going to turn a game our way?
This is what I was saying. He's turned and looked at his bench and he's thinking, who am I bringing on?
Right.
You know what? It's a tough one because, like you said, it all comes down to the score, whether we're losing, who we're playing, is it the Champions League? Because all the players we've signed are good enough to be starting. I think I would back that decision. But are they players that are going to change the game and able to come on and do something? So I think this comes back, and I know this is where you're thriving here because I feel like you've got 6 players that have come in that you're still not convinced that there's one of them that can.
No, do you know what it is for me? Is when I look at it, right? I've not once said to anybody that I don't like any of the players coming in. Yeah. This is the problem. When you go live as much as I do, all people will hear is Sava doesn't like Spence because I said I'm not excited, right? That's what they'll hear. So people will hear that, I'm a bit underwhelmed by the signing so far. Sava said we've had a shit window. No. I think we've made 6. I said at the beginning, right? A good window. However, I'm still looking and going, right, even with those signings, I'm now looking to the bench. And I've used this example before. Let's assume, lads, and for anyone in the chat, this is not about picking a Spurs 11. Let's assume this 11 starts. Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Longley. Perisic, Spence, Benton, Basuma, Son, Kane, Kulusevski. I'm still looking for all these people that are telling me we're in a title challenge and that we can do 55, 60 game season. I'm still looking at the bench and going, right, well, what's coming off it to affect a game?
So,
I'm
Sam,
not talking about bringing on a skip.
Are you comparing us to a title winning side?
Just in general, because I think one of the things I look at, Max.
We're definitely on the way that, like, we're coming in here. We've just signed 6 players that would never normally happen. And then
True.
We're still, like, there's levels, there's different filters to this. Like, I would say we're climbing this. You could, put the league table, for example, as this ladder. We're not quite there yet. We're not competing with the likes of Liverpool and Man City. We're not competing with Real Madrid, etc. It's like we're definitely up there in the Premier League, and we will be a threat next season without a doubt. But this next step you're talking about is the step where you win trophies, where you win the league. And obviously, the season hasn't started yet. But
so Max, let me tell you where I'm coming from. Then let me tell you where I'm coming from. So I think on paper, when you look at a 1 to 11, our 1 to 11, I've got no issues with it, right? And if the game plan works, it's great. Mm-hmm. My issue is that last year, from when Conte came in, everyone keeps telling me that he averaged something like 2.1 points per game. Yeah. However, last year, other than Vitesse Arnhem and Mura, he had 1 game a week for about 6 months. This year, we're in different territory. We're now in Champions League football. We're now in rotation. We're now, all right, Kane and Romero get 6-month injuries. Touch wood, they don't. Kane and Romero get 6-month injuries. Right, okay. Who am I bringing in at centre-back? Right, Sanchez. Okay. All right, Richarlison can go in up front. Now I've not got a single striker on the bench. So I'm not trying to be negative. What I'm trying to do here is look and go, before fans keep telling me we've got enough to challenge, I just wonder if the depth is actually there.
It's incorrect because the squad depth is just as important as the starting 11 because, like you just said, Harry Kane gets injured, Richarlison starts. Fantastic. Sonny gets injured. Who starts? You're not going to put Brian Hill and say, we're competing for the league. You're not going to say that because with all due respect, what's Brian Hill going to offer in terms of going up down the left? He's not physically strong enough for the Premier League, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. He's not physically strong enough for the Premier League. And then, okay, we've got Son and Kane injured. Them both are the best goal contribution in the whole Premier League history. What we're going to do now? We're not going to fight for the title. That's not how the team works. We have to have just as much of a squad depth as a starting 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Max, it would bring you in on that. That's my only point. So when people call me negative, where I'm a bit older and have been around for a bit long,
I don't think it's negative. I think you're saying things that could happen. Kane and this could get injured, and then we're back to square one. But you do need you don't just win the league. You don't just challenge for trophies without that bit of luck. I mean, Liverpool had this season where they didn't get. Was it last year? Back, I think. Couple of seasons ago, they had no injuries at all. I mean, you need that little bit of luck along the line. Yeah. But depth obviously does bring you a long way because you want to be able to drop them for certain games to get them ready for the bigger games, so to speak. And it was like when we used to have like Vinicius, and I still wasn't that confident, even when like you know those games where you're playing your backup striker, but you're not confident in your backup striker.
Yeah.
That's 100% where you're coming from.
I'm thinking, pick anyone. Juventus, away, Champions League. You're 1-2-0 down. The manager turns around and goes, right, I need to freshen it up now with 2-3 attacking players, creative players. I go to the bench and I go, right, I've got Lucas Moura, who's not really done anything for about 3 years. Sorry, I know you're not allowed to say that.
No, true. Fair
and then after that, I'm looking at central midfielders that, let's be fair, they're not creative. They're not going to come on and unlock defences. And then after Perisic and Spence, you're looking at Royal and Sessegnon, who we'll talk about them later, but hit and miss. Yeah. So I still feel that before people keep telling me, Sava, you're negative, we're gonna finish above Liverpool, we're gonna get 93 points. I feel like there still needs 3 or 4 more in depth. But I'm also acutely aware, Max and Josh, that it doesn't happen in one window, and we're paying for many bad windows, right? Is that fair, Max?
I agree. I just want to ask one question into that. So personally, I thought, we're signing Bentancur. I want to get your opinions as well. We signed Bentancur, and I'm a little bit upset in terms of his creative side. I thought he'd offer us a bit more in terms of his creativity. Like, I think he could have done many more assists, in my opinion. And I feel like, did you expect a Bentancur to be like this, or did you think he'd show a little bit more creativity in us?
Do you know what? I obviously knew the name, but I didn't know what his preferred position was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could argue it's because we want him to be more creative. That's why. But it's because we haven't got anyone. We wouldn't be moaning if there was someone else that was creating an extra 10, 15 goals a season. It's just we haven't even seen that much of him, to be fair. We've seen back end of a season, he's done nothing wrong in terms of getting into the side. Like, he looks like he's been there. He looks like he could have been there all season. And the way those came and settled in so nicely. I mean, it just came down to making that position his own. I mean, Kulusevski speaks for himself. He made that right wing position himself. It was Lucas Moura's in the past. He never took it, and that's why they end up sitting on the bench. And we look at them, we think, well, the creativity is not there because you've had your time to shine in that position. It's like people bang on about. There might be a few in the chat that hate me saying this, but people banging about, how good Troy Parrott could be as a backup. But why is he not getting a chance then? Why aren't we seeing him? If he's good enough to be scoring and competing at a high level, then surely Conte would be able to see this because he's someone that will give someone a chance like that. I mean, look at Skip. He's going to put faith in him. It's only because Skip was injured. So it's
a tough one. I'm just putting food for thought, right? Food for thought. That's all it is.
And also,
absolutely,
that Conte season where he turned Moses into like an unbelievable right back could be something that happens with Spence. It's just we're all waiting to see. I saw this picture with Spence today, and who was it on the other side?
Who was it? Perisic, or like a left wing back?
It's Sessegnon. It was Sessegnon and Spence.
Sessegnon and Spence.
The other picture was Walker and Rose, and it was like
past the future.
Because a season like that is a season of creativity from wing backs, and that's what Liverpool have. Liverpool have so much creativity just from their wing backs that they score goals. You don't have to defend in terms of if your back three is good enough at defending, you can push them forward, and the more players you have up the pitch, you'd like to think the more chances you're going to create. So,
do you know what? When people talk to me, Max, about Liverpool, I think this is the thing for me is Liverpool. Yes, somebody's just made a point. I think Barry's trying to come in with a point and saying, okay, well, Liverpool have got Núñez, Diaz, Salah and Jota. What happens when one of those gets injured? They've not got anyone. I think the difference for me with what they've got is they've still got those two outlets that are proven in Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson. And then for me, they've got Thiago Alcantara, a bloke that can put his foot on the ball and control games of football at the highest level. Plus, they've brought in Fabio Carvalho. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see him play. He is going to be the next little Coutinho. He's a very good player. But look, in an ideal world, Son, Kane, Kulusevski get to play every game this season. We don't need any backups. Yeah. It's just a long season, World Cup. You've got to factor the World Cup in as well, right? Are people going to be going full tilt as we get towards the end of November? Are they going to want to so there's all these factors that I'm trying to bring in. Let's move on. Josh, I want to talk to you about Spence, a player that I've not been critical of him. I've been critical of if the signing of him is ambitious enough for a Champions League team. There's a difference. What do you make of Spence, and how excited are you to see him in a Spurs shirt?
I'm very excited because I feel like he offers the fighting position. Emerson Royale was horrible. I'm sorry if anyone here is an Emerson Royale fan. He was a shocker.
He's got good montages on Twitter.
Yeah, his Instagram's actually quite good. Not gonna lie, but
Josh, just quickly. So this guy came into my YouTube. I do a lot of posts on YouTube, right? Like text polls or whatever. And this guy called Mikhail something came on and went, Sava, I will always be here to call you out. You are wrong. You are passing off that Emerson Royal factually is always out of position. We had the third best defence in the league when Conte got there. You know nothing. I was like, whoa, dude, you gotta slow down. Like, I don't like Emerson Royal. Just leave it at that, right? But Josh, you don't like Royal. So Spence.
Look, Spence is definitely going to challenge for the right wing back spot. He's much younger. He's much more aggressive, and he's huge. He's like 6'3" or something like that. The only thing I'm slightly concerned is his crossing ability. Now, there's his crossing ability is not on point, and that's something I'm very, very worried about. But I'm sure Antonio Conte can help him improve in that. But there will be competition for Matt Doherty. I feel like Matt Doherty, he had a good run towards the end of the season, but he's still really, really, really bad. I mean, like, it's poor signing. If you look at the past, I don't know, three seasons. If you tell me choose one of the worst signings, okay, you're gonna say Ndombele, fine, fair enough. But then I'm calling Emerson now. Because if we're spending 30 mil, that's half of Ndombele's on a right back who's out of position. That's number 2. He's out of position and he can't get a crossing. There's some problems in that. And Jed Spence, I feel like he definitely offer some fighting spirit, and Antonio Conte can turn him into the next Moses. Who knows?
Okay, Max, just before I come to you, Barry Shuttleworth, look, we just answered this. I think the key thing here is Liverpool don't have world-class backups. I think the key thing is you will never hear out of my mouth the words world-class. I struggle to call many players world-class, let alone think Spurs are ever going to sign a world-class player. I'm just talking about anybody. I'm talking about somebody that's not, obviously, they're not going to be Kane or Son, but they're also not going to be Lucas Moura. I feel like you need some options. That's all. Toxic Headshot said, Conte is here to win the title, not pretend. That's great, but teams that win titles just have so many options. Spence, Max, talk to me. My point on Spence is that I've got nothing against him. He looks exciting. Mine has been, is he ready now? Yeah, which is what I've doubted, and which is what I've said. I want to be sitting here, Max, in 3 months. I want to be on a show with you going, do you know what? Jesus, I was wrong. He is ready right now. Or is there going to be that gap from someone who's never played at this level and now is playing Champions League?
Do you know what? The only thing that scares me about Spence, and it's not the price tag, because that was a brilliant deal. Like, you can't argue with that. English, you're not signing a player that's just been promoted from Championship for that sort of money. So good business. But I just pray that he doesn't fall into that Dele Alli category of where he's shining, he's on the way up. And the reason I say this is, at the end of the playoff game, I know they've just been promoted. Like, fair enough, he's allowed to celebrate and do what he wants. But it was like, as soon as the cameras were on, he went straight to the middle. He's down on his feet. He's down on his knees. He's like, oh my god. And he's like, he's not stupid. He's young. He knows social media is a big thing. It's gonna go everywhere. I just pray that sort of thing doesn't get to his head. Like, you're potentially walking into Spurs' first right back position, Champions League football. Do not let it get to you. And I think that's just what it comes down to. He's going to have the training. His link up plays second to none. It's just whether he can get the ball in the box, which I'm sure he's. Like I said, it's just his attitude. That's what I feel like it could come down to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I know the bloke. I don't go out for dinner with him. I don't know him. Like,
yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do. Come on.
You and him having a cigar.
Yeah, me and him were getting a McDonald's the other night. But he was someone that we haven't spent 30-40 million on. We haven't done an Emerson Royal. And that's the problem. You're annoyed that Emerson Royal, it's because he costs a lot of money, and somehow we ended up paying silly money for him. I mean, normally we end up not paying that and forking that much out for players, especially when we don't know how good they are. But then you could argue we've done that with Ndombele. So it's just an interesting one, isn't it? Like, surely Spence comes into the Spurs side, before I'd let you have your little waffle. Surely he comes into this Spurs side knowing this right back position is up for me. It's up for grabs.
Right.
If I work
Yeah.
hard and I get my head down, knuckle down, I'm in the future plans, and I will be playing every game at right back.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I come to you, Josh, on that, just to say thank you very much for everyone who's liked so far. There's 150 of you in the chat, only 77 likes. Let's get that over to 100. If anyone did want to put any super chats in, then 50% does go to charity, to a cause close to my heart, the British Heart Foundation. So, Josh, what would be a good season for Spence? Because I said to my mate the other day, my mate said, Sava, you're going to see Jed Spence. He's brilliant. He's the best right wing back we could have got. So I said, okay, great. So with that, don't tell me in 3 months then that he needs time to settle, because we're buying players for the Champions League. So I'm going harsh on this one. What's a good season for him, Josh?
Okay, so whenever people ask me that question, I never give stats, because I feel like stats won't mean much in terms of the end of the season, because someone could give 1 goal and 1 assist, but he was the best player in the whole team every single game. That doesn't mean anything. In my opinion, I think Jed Spence has to conquer that right wing back spot. That should be his main goal. And then he should have little goals with, definitely understanding the link up between Kulusevski, that right hand side of the pitch, and definitely understanding the link up between Harry Kane and Son. I feel like it's a bit weird what I'm trying to say, but the link up between Heung-min Son and Harry Kane is key to Jed Spence, because if Jed Spence wants to get to Harry Kane, it will be much easier for Harry Kane to decide, okay, do I score now or do I pass to Son? Their connection is unbelievable with Son and Kane. And with Jed Spence, if he can master that, let's give a good cross. Crossing is he has to master that. If he can give a good cross to Harry Kane, that should be amazing. So in terms of performances, he needs to defend well. That's for sure. Defend well. And crossings definitely to be up there. Dribbling, I don't really care about dribbling. But in terms of crossings, it needs to improve, and he has to conquer that right wing back position.
So, Max, you go along with that, by conquering the right wing back position, is that getting to the point where every Spurs fan, including myself, is sitting there going, there's no doubt who starts this next game. There's no doubt who starts the big game. It is Spence. It's not Doherty. It's not Royal or whoever's 100%.
there.
I think it's just, this is what I mean. He could easily walk into this Tottenham side. He only has to have 1 good game, and then he's starting. It's as simple as that, because there's no one in that right back position. You've got Doherty, who was so hit and miss. He had so much that he could have brought to the table. Emerson Royale, obviously, he's just there for a laugh. We don't really know why. That's why even Lucas Moura was getting tested in that right wing back position. All he needs to do, and I'm saying this is absolute speculation. I think someone said in the chat, I don't know obviously what Spence's attitude's like. It's just from what I feel like I've already seen. And that's just as simple with someone coming in the chat now and seeing me and thinking, oh, this guy's talking a load of rubbish, I'm never going to watch him again. It's exactly the same as that.
Of course it is. So, it's all opinions, right? It's all individual taste.
No opinions. And this is it makes streaming and you guys like on the podcast, this is what it's all about. And it's only going to keep getting the same. Like, so I'd love to see him. If you're asking me the same question or you're talking about what does he have to do, it's just make
not a lot. That's what I'm telling you. Would it be fair to say that, right? I mean, I said to my uncle today, I said to him, the difference for me now is anyone coming in to take that right wing back spot, it's not like they're coming, it's not like anyone's like Richarlison coming to challenge Son or Kane for their positions. And you're like, dude, that's not happening. Or you've got to put in a hell of a shift. He's just got to be decent, because I think that's how bad we've been at right back for years.
If he keeps, I know I'm butting in, but
go.
Keeps himself off of, like, does a Harry Kane and just can't put a foot wrong. That's how you do it. Learn from players that are in the squad. Learn, and then who knows? You could be in the England setup. Like, there's so much there for Spence. And I'm not saying, obviously, it's just speculation again. I'm not saying World Cup, because obviously it's too quick. But he's got so many players there that he can idolise off of. Like, you got Son, who just sets examples everywhere he goes. Obviously, he's loved you ever look South Korea tour, he's blown away the support he gets. You've got someone like Kane who you never see anything bad in the media, never the press, anything like that. Like, surely just players nowadays, obviously they're all growing up with social media, and it's part of life now. So just keep in the good books. Don't put a foot wrong. Don't get caught out, because I know obviously you've got players like Foden that can get caught out in a nightclub. They're allowed to do what they want. But as long as they're dropping good performances on the pitch, no one's going to say nothing. It's as soon as they don't. And that's the problem.
That's the thing. What we don't want to see is, again, I don't know him. We don't want to see all these partying antics before he's actually consolidate himself as a Spurs player. Just before I come to you, Josh, just going to go through some comments. N17 Spurs says, Sava, what's your point, bro? Carvalho and Spence both in the Championship, but yet Liverpool sign him. Make it make sense, by the way, Spence better than him. I mean, there's so much to pick apart in that sentence. First of all, some grammar would really help me. Let's call it as it is. Listen, first and foremost, I don't know how we can judge Carvalho, who's an attacking midfielder, versus Jed Spence, who's a right wing back. Second of all, I think the difference is that Jed Spence has been bought, I believe, as our number one right wing back, whereas I believe Fabio Carvalho is going to be a bit part player who will get rotated in and out. So it's a huge difference between the two. Also, one of them is going into a star-studded squad that nearly won a quadruple. The other one is... Huh?
No, I just said mental.
Yeah. Right, I feel like lots of Spurs fans belittle Liverpool. Let's move on. Kane Leg, hello to you. I said, Emerson's not a football player at all. Worst fullback I've seen. Bob Coys, I wasn't that happy about Spence, but I'm beginning to change my mind, as is your right. Glenn has said Emerson would look shit at Barnet. I mean, okay. Only thing Emerson, okay, lots of Emerson hate. Adam McFarlane said, few more windows before a title push. Still so much shit at the club because of bad windows in the past. Adam, I think that's where I come from when I get called negative. It's not so much about what we're going to do now. It's about the effects of the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 windows, where we've got to a point where we've got players like Winks and Dombele, Lo Celso, Rodon that no one wants. Let's change this up, Josh.
I've got a question for you, sorry.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Just a quick one. There was a couple of seasons ago where that right-back spot was still a problem, right? And then we had Tanganga with that game of his life. He was up and down that wing. Could Spence have one game like that? And then everyone's like, oh, my God, he's the next best thing. I thought Tanganga was going to be a solid right-back from that game. And look what happened. So it's not a question. It's just more of I'm putting it out there. Like, I don't want it to happen to Spence. It's easy to just judge players by one game, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It's just quickly, guys, Toxic Headshot's never done anything wrong. Please do not, if anyone has, please do not put him on a timeout. He's allowed to disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. I don't ever want my show to become just people who agree with me, or I'd have no one to argue with.
Boring.
It would be very boring. Max, I think to answer your question, Spurs fans, I suppose all football fans, we are the masters of knee-jerkery, right? I remember the first game of last season. I've always maintained that for me, Tanganga is very rash, doesn't use his head a lot, not good enough for me, right? He had a good game against Man City, and oh my God, the fan base went mad. This guy, he is going to be on point. He's going to be in the England squad for the World Cup. He's brilliant. And then 3, 4, 5 games where you go, oh God, no, you are not that great.
Yeah, you're not.
Now, the problem is, that's going to happen with every player. And what I don't want people to do with a young English player like Jed Spence is put him on the pedestal to the point where he feels so much pressure, i.e. if he has a great debut, whips in a cross for a goal, and people are going, oh my God, he's the next Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? I like to see players, Max, that have 10, 15, 20 consistent games where you go, God, they've been brilliant. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it will happen. The knee jerk will be there.
it's also when you know that you need that position sorted, like it bugs you more. So it's like that right back position. Since Walker's gone, we've just never had anyone that's been able
Just
to knock
as
him
good.
down. Really, like you could argue Trippier had some decent games, but he like he's a different player. He's not the same as Walker. You can't knock the ball 20 yards and run onto it, and he's not.
No,
He wasn't exciting.
of course.
Like completely different players. You can't really like.
Can I add something to that? To Matt's
Sure.
question. So I feel like the main point with Jeff at Tanganga was because he was also young and also put in first time right back spot against Man City, first game of the season. There's a lot of pressure on him, and that's also a thing that I don't want Jed Spence to feel. Like I don't want him to feel so much pressure as a youngster. It really like affects your career for the positive and for the negative. Like you got different perspectives.
No, 100%.
No, listen, absolutely. I think it's a difficult one, and I'm going to be really intrigued to see in that first kind of 5 to 10 games of the season. Is it Doherty, who was coming into some sort of form, but before he got the injury, or is it going to be Spence? Because by all accounts, Spence to me looks more of the mould that Conte has had in the past in terms of athletic, pacey, powerful, whereas Doherty seems to pop up with the odd goal, the odd assist, but I don't know if he's good enough on the ball, and we know he's not got the pace. So I don't think you're ever going to see Doherty beat his fullback, are you? So it's going to be a real interesting one. Any more on Spence before I move on from him? Is everyone comfortable with what they said?
I think I've said enough about it's just we're all sat here just hoping he's going to be our next right back, aren't we? So
It's just hope.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I want to say on this is, look, I don't see it as ambition, but do I want it to work out? Absolutely. I want every signing to work out. My opinion on whether it will or not is a completely different matter. Lads, let's talk about a player that really interests me and another one. And that's how I know our window's not been phenomenal. It's been good because there's so many players that divide opinion, right? You know, when you have a great window, everyone goes, oh my God, that's amazing, right? Clement Longley was brilliant for Seville. He's had some good times at Barca. He's had some very difficult times at Barca. What do you guys make of him? And from what you've seen, what's he going to bring to that back three that we don't have already?
It's up to you. I don't mind. You want me to fire away?
Yeah, go for it. Whoever, go for it.
I feel like he's been brought in on loan because he's not a player that is going to go into that defence because he's good at defending. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but Conte wants players that are good with the feet, good on the ball. I've seen numerous clips where he's got that Toby Alderweireld pass where he can put a ball over the top.
Yeah.
And that can work in games. Sometimes you need that. I mean, I'm not saying he's not an exciting player to bring on, but when you know someone's got that, can change the game up, get a quick player up the top, over the top. It's just a different game plan. He's definitely not been brought in to defend. But then, what other defenders have we got that are going to be much better than him? Are you telling him? Are you saying if he takes Davis's spot, you'd rather Davis defending than him? So it's just another player that's there that gives a different option on the ball. Like Romero, brilliant on the ball. Dyer's a bit better than he used to be, and it's having someone else in that same position. But that's why he's been brought in on loan. Maybe he's going to wait and see. It was just, who can we get in trusty? Let's say one of our centre-backs get injured and everyone goes, oh, we have got Sanchez. Oh, no. Like, you know what I mean? It's just another centre-back that's there in that position to offer something, just to be there.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I tell you the one thing from watching him the last few years in Spain, he is very good on the ball.
He's got experience as well.
He has. What I like about him, I like footballers that, even if they've got men around them, say, yeah, give me the ball. I'm comfortable enough in my own ability that I'm not worried that I'm being shut down. He's got that. The question for me is going to be, is he good enough in the air? Because at the moment, I think that is where our back three lacks. I don't think there's a leader that goes and, ball coming in the box. I've got that. But I mean, Josh, what do you make of him, Longley? He's had some tough times, right? And I feel a lot of people are judging him maybe without seeing him.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna have to slightly disagree with you, Sarah, based on your point with
Oh well, I'm gonna have to kick you off the show then if you disagree with me. So not
with
on, mate. Not on.
with the control with the ball. When he gets the ball, he struggles sometimes when the ball is with his feet. I've watched plenty of Barcelona games, surprisingly, and when he gets the ball, I'm gonna tell you this now because I feel like we will see a couple of Davinson Sanchez mistakes from Lenglet. It's guaranteed gonna happen because his passing ability and him on the ball is two separate things. His passing ability is sensational. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Him on the ball, he likes to challenge 1v1. He likes to go kick the ball forward and run. He likes doing that. And I'm going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he does it and if he makes any mistakes. I'm also quite upset about the transfer. I feel like it's a smart transfer, like I've said before. And I'm a bit upset about the transfer because one of my main targets that I'd love Tottenham to bring in was Bremer. I would have loved Tottenham to bring in Bremer. And now that he's gone to Juventus, it's a bit of a shame. I feel like Tottenham could have really done with Bremer. But look, Lenglet's for this season. Next season, we're gonna have to go for a centre back, and it's gonna be a fight for a centre back next season. I've said it so many times. Loads of teams are gonna go for centre backs next season. Tons of teams are gonna go for centre backs. And now that Bremer's gone to Juve, it's gonna look like who are we getting next? Who's the next Lenglet?
Well, this is what I was going to move on to. Just before we do, let me quickly get my bits out there. We're on 93 likes. Can we get 7 more to get us to the 100 mark? Please, if you haven't already subscribed to all 3 of us, please do. I am 128 subscribers away from giving away 2 tickets to the Tottenham-Southampton game. Very good seats as well, and you get to sit with me. So if you hate me, it's your chance to absolutely ruin me to my face. Also, any super chats, half the money does go to charity. So please do keep getting those in. And Harry Hotspur, how are you doing, my man? You need to come on one day. Let's talk about this, Max. Josh gave me a seamless link there that I ruined by talking about likes and free tickets. So lots of people I keep hearing saying, well, he only wants Bastoni or Vardial. So we're not going to do anything this year. We've got a loan. We'll go for them next year. Now, for me, that's a really dangerous game to play because suddenly you don't get Champions League because it's not a given. If you don't get Champions League, those players go...
Fight for it this year, don't we?
Right, absolutely. So... Do you succumb to that? Do you think that's true? Or do you think that there's a centre-back in the offing and we'll see them in the next few weeks?
I still feel, and I just don't know whether that's because I've got my Tottenham brain on and I'm just always optimistic that we are going to do well. We are going to make a big signing. But the fact we've gone and signed 6 in like positions where we've already needed, and I know there's no big marquee. Are we saving that one till last? Are we waiting? Are we going to do something just before the start of the season? At this point in time, we're thinking, well, I'm not sure. We're twiddling our thumbs and we're just hoping each day that there's going to be a breaking story. Just like the Basuma, like it just happened like that. So it does show you that it can happen. We don't remember. They've been back from South Korea, only a couple of days. So, and they were all out. I know they've obviously that they can still do
Max,
this.
looking at this comment, I fully agree with this, right? Tottenham Hotspur, right? Champions League football, 7th or 8th richest club in the world, one of the best managers in world football, best stadium, best training ground. Why now can we not go after these types of defenders that you see Chelsea going for? Chelsea just went out and went Koulibaly, Bosch. Juventus in 48 hours went, do you know what? We'll hijack that Bremer deal. 48 hours. Done. Chelsea now. We'll have Kimpembe. Why can we not attract... I don't think I've even named a world-class centre-back there. just very good centre backs. Why can't we do that?
I think you're waiting to be proven wrong, and you'd love it, wouldn't you? So I mean, that's
absolutely.
It goes.
I've been waiting for 40 years, Max.
Yeah, but I've been waiting 28 years, and I'm just happy we've got 6 over the line at the moment. I mean, it's strengthening. We need, like you say, you're basically saying we 100% need that another signing in the centre back position. Someone that's going to come in, be a sort of like a captain approach, get involved every challenge, be that centre back at the back, like another Romero sort of thing. Like we need another one of them. Is that what you're saying? You'd be more than happy with another Romero at the back. Or do you go the other option and get like Chelsea brought in Thiago Silva, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's passed it, he's done it." I mean, sorry, he done a job. He done a brilliant job for Chelsea. So
I think if you're going to get someone of that age, that it's got to be a centre back, because they learn as they get older and the legs go. They learn where to be, that they don't get caught out of position.
And we're playing with a 3.
Right. And yeah, absolutely, we're playing with a 3. My concern is this at the moment. Again, I'll go back to the injury situation, right? If Man City lose Ruben Diaz, you go, okay, cool. They've got Laporte and Stones, that we know is a fantastic partnership anyway. They've got Ake, if that falls behind. He's a good centre-back. I'm not saying great for anyone in the chat as a go at me.
Good enough.
Good, solid Premiership centre-back, right? Liverpool have got Van Dijk, Matip, Konate and Joe Gomez. My worry is the moment Romero gets an injury, if he does, I look at that back 3, whichever way I spin it at the moment, whichever 3 I'm putting in there, I worry, especially for Champions League nights. That's my point, Max. That's where I'm coming from.
Do you reckon maybe we would put all of our eggs in one basket, and as soon as Bastoni's turned around, and because apparently he wants to be Inter Milan's next captain, he wants to lead them, he wants to stay there. Do you reckon that's come a bit of a shock? Do you reckon we actually thought, we're going to be able to get him in, and then he could have been one of our second or third signings? Because that's when the links started happening and we started hearing. So
I would like to think not. I would like to think that Tottenham Hotspur, being the size of the club we are, with Paratici, who apparently is always in that kitchen cooking, apparently, I would like to think that we've gone, right, here's 5 or 6 centre-backs that we want. Yes, you're going to have okay, if it's Bastoni that everyone's fascinated by, right? If it's Bastoni, you also know that there's a risk that he's an Inter lad. He might not want to come, right? Surely then you have second, third, fourth choices, because there's so many centre-backs out there. Bremer, 38 million euros to Juve, right? Undikar, who's got 1 year left on his contract. Hincapi. We could go on and on, but it just feels to me that if we don't get one this window, I feel like we're missing a huge opportunity.
Can I add one more? I want to add one more centre back into this whole mix.
Go for it.
Why do we not go for someone like Matthias de Ligt? I mean, Bayern Munich just suddenly out of nowhere just signed him from nowhere, and I feel like why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we go for Matthias de Ligt?
Well, just quickly before we answer that, I'm going to come straight back to that. Before we answer that, I have got a super chat from Tommy Castillo. Tommy, thank you so much. Half of that money does go to charity, so much appreciated. He's put, boys, hearing Conte talk about it being just the beginning of his project, is there a world where you can see Conte being here at Spurs for a long time? So before we come back to De Ligt, Josh, Conte, does he stay anywhere for ages? The word project, does that suggest that he's strapped in for the long haul? What do you reckon?
Look, if he was, then he would be signing more of the youngsters in terms of signings. I don't think he's going to be staying. I'd love him to stay. Don't get me wrong. I would love him to stay. I don't think he's going to stay for that long. I think he's going to stay for a good 3 seasons, but not for the 5 and above. I think in terms of Antonio Conte, he's never been the type of manager that would stay in a team for that long. It's a project in terms of It's an overall Tottenham Hotspur project. That's important to understand. It's not an Antonio Conte project. That's nonsense. I love Antonio Conte, but it's not an Antonio Conte project. It's not a Harry Kane project. It's a Tottenham Hotspur collective project. Therefore, Jed Spence has just the amount of input he needs to put in as Højbjerg, or as Hugo Lloris says. It's a project in total. So, do I think Conte is here for the long term? No. 3 seasons? Yes.
Okay, let me twist this question for you, Max. First of all, do you think he'll be here a long time? Second of all, everyone's telling me he's been backed. Everyone's telling me these are his choices. These are his players. This is who he wants. If we do not make top 4 next season, has he failed? I'm just throwing it out there.
That's a good question, Sam. I'm going to give you that.
It's just annoying because our expectations are so big now. It's just football's changed. We feel like we are one of the biggest clubs going because obviously this big stadium, and we've only had Conte for 9 months. We haven't even had him a whole season yet, and I feel like we're forgetting that. If he's here for 3-4 years, brilliant, but let's go do something next season and then talk about that. When he first signed that contract, it was only going to be a couple of seasons anyway. He's just got his Champions League. He's signed 6 players, whether it's him or not, yes or no. He's brought in backroom staff who he's wanted. He's been in 9 months. And you've got to remember, what other manager has done that since you've been watching, Sav, that's been able to make this many changes to a Spurs side already? Have you excited going into the season? And yet we're still sat here saying, oh, but we ain't done this yet. And
I'll tell you, manager.
Go on.
Harry Redknapp, when he took over, it was an absolute mess.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute mess. Brought in very quickly Kranjčar, Palacios, Defoe. And within 18 months, we went from bottom of the table to top 4. But I hear what you're saying. But you haven't answered my question. If he doesn't get top 4, right, is it a failure? I haven't said it is. I'm just asking you.
It would be a failure because of the expectation.
would it be a failure because we've, by definition of numbers, we would have gone backwards?
It's such a hard question. It's because we all want Champions League. Would it be a failure? It's got to be yes, because if you're spending over 100 million on 6 different players, it's got to be. It's got to be, because you've got to build. You're going forward. You're building, you're signing more players to improve. Otherwise, there's no point signing 6 players to then not get Champions League football again. So it's a tough question.
Isn't it?
Let me just twist that. Max, if we get an FA and we finish 5th, is that a successful season?
I'm sat here saying I want trophies. And I'm sure you want a trophy too.
Yes, please.
But is that a failure for not getting Champions League? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, is that a failure in terms of the season, collective season, like Sav asked?
Bloody hell. So what if...
listen.
What if we don't get a trophy and just get Champions League? Is that a successful season?
We haven't gone down anywhere, have we? It's the same thing. We haven't gone down anywhere. We haven't made progress, but we haven't gone down. Antonio Conte came in when we were 7th, I think, and we finished last season 7th, and we've just gone up. I mean, Champions League now. If we continue with the Champions League, we're gonna continue. So it's not a failure, is it?
Do you know what though?
It's a tough one, right? There's no
very good question. Very good question.
It is, yeah. And FA Cup's still better. Because it's so tough. Because FA Cup, half the people I'm sitting there, half the people in the chat probably haven't even seen us win the FA Cup. I definitely haven't.
Mate, I haven't seen us win a trophy except for Audi Cup.
I was there.
my dad would say he was there as well.
I was there. Look, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because look, as a Spurs fan, I cannot be hypocritical. I am the biggest advocate of thinking that ENIC and Levy have been disappointing because we've won 1 trophy in 22 years. So what I couldn't do in good faith is sit here and lie to all of you people in the chat, you two as guests, and say, oh, well, no, I don't want to win a cup. I'd rather Champions League. What I think is if we are serious, if we are as good as we think we are, if this window's been as good as it is, and if Conte is as good as he says he is, I'm not saying he's not before anyone shouts at me, then let's change the question and be a big club for once. Let's stop saying to each other, what would you rather, a cup or top four? Let's change the question and say, we want both. That's all I'm saying to Tottenham fans.
Yeah.
I think that just comes with what you're not used to, though. So you just settle for certain things. I've always had to just settle for, when I was growing up, Spurs being like 7, getting Europa League. I was happy to try and compete in that, and we still never done anything that. Now we suddenly, last few years, we've been hovering around Champions League, and we're like, because we've been in it recently, we were like, oh, we want more of that. And then that's what's going to happen when we win a trophy. We're going to want more. And having Conte at the helm is the best person to have, because he's won numerous amount of trophies. So I think it's just doing it. It's getting that one over the line.
It is. It definitely is. So just quickly, before we go, I want to talk about the top four in a minute.
Yeah.
I want to carry on where we were with De Ligt. And Josh's question, Max, I'll let you answer this. Josh's question was, Bayern have gone out. De Ligt, I think it works out to like, was it 57 million euros or something? Why couldn't Spurs do that? That was Josh's question, Max.
Yeah.
Are Spurs a big enough pool for a De Ligt?
70 mil plus 10 mil in add-ons.
It's so tough again, because half of these Champions League players know. I'm not sitting here saying Spurs are known as being a bottle club. But if you're one of these centre-backs and you're a big player abroad, do you want to come to Spurs and say, oh, I'm not sure if I'm playing Champions League football next season? They want to go somewhere knowing that they're playing Champions League football next season, some of these players. But the reason, I don't know why Spurs don't just go after them. Why don't Spurs put in a bid? Why don't we show interest? For like you're saying, we're not struggling signing players around the mark that we can get in. It's that big marquee signing that other clubs will be like, oh my God, Spurs just signed so-and-so. And it has been a while since that's happened, for sure. I mean, I can only sit here and say I wish we'd signed De Ligt, because the squad just goes from a 6 out of 10 transfer window to an 8.5, easy, just like that.
But I mean, I think, look, there are certain players where you look at and go, we're never going to get them. And for me, when I say never, I mean at the moment, De Ligt is in that circle. I think he's got, he went with such a big money move. He's got that name. Some names in the market are just at that level, even if their performances haven't been. I.e. a Paul Pogba, for example, he's up and down in performances, but still gets talked about by so many at that level. For me, Josh, it was more about the players like a Bremer from Torino, an Undercar from Frankfurt, right? That for me is more the level where I see us. And I just wonder why we haven't gone to do anything like that yet, and whether it will materialize. Because I think if we don't, I really will worry anytime I see Romero going into a tackle and I'm thinking, Jesus, you're going to get a 3-game ban. Or anytime I see him down holding his head and his leg, I'm thinking he's injured. Would that be fair, Josh? Or is that...
Are you just saying you want Spurs to go in for these players, and even if we get rejected and they literally say back off, no chance, are you just saying that you wish we showed the ambition to actually try?
At least we tried.
I mean, yeah, listen, I mean, there is that school of thought, right? For me, I think try, but if we know a player is unobtainable, it's probably futile. But for me, I think there's enough defenders around the world that walk into Tottenham Hotspur's team. Yes, Davis had a decent season. I think everyone's going well over the top. I think Davis had a good season, but you're talking about going from this level to this level, players get upgraded. And that's what Chelsea have done over the years. City did over the years. Liverpool did. You don't just go, oh, they've had 6 good months. Brilliant. They're the number one now. I do worry about that area of the pitch, guys. I really, really do. I want to move on. I want to talk, Max, let me bring you in here. I want to talk about the top 4, as we were just talking about the importance of getting it again. We beat Arsenal to top 4 by, what was it in the end? 1 point, 2 points? 1 point. There's lots of schools of thought. Well, if we'd had Conte from the beginning of the season, it would have been bigger. Either way, it wasn't. It was 1 point. This was an Arsenal team without any strikers. This year, we are seeing Man United strengthen. Chelsea have lost a couple of centre-backs, but they've brought in Koulibaly. They've gone and got Sterling, who's a proven winner, proven Premiership player. With all that in mind, do you see us making top four, Max, with what we've done so far and with the other transfers windows the other teams have had? And do you think it's going to be as tougher than last year or easier than last year?
Straight away, definitely tougher. I mean, teams this window seem to be signing positions that they know they need.
Yeah.
Arsenal gone out and signed that striker that they obviously needed. Like Sterling going to Chelsea. I think that's an unbelievable signing, to be fair. I think Sterling, whether they play the same system, regardless, he's him as a player is brilliant. Like playing for England or whatnot, he obviously scores and assists loads of goals for us. But before I go off the topic, are we good enough for top four? Yes. The reason for that, we've got the best striker in the league. Anything can happen. You've got Kane on your side. And Son, Golden Boot, those two, they speak for themselves. I feel like you don't need to, no one ever needs to talk or thought of them. They do their own thing. And it is tough. I still think Man United won't be in the equation. The reason for that, I feel like they've got too much going on in that backroom staff that needs sorting. I feel like, they've signed some good players. Eriksen's in there. They've obviously got that. They're all waffling that Martial's going to be back up and running. It's like I'm not convinced by Man United. Arsenal, yes,
Can I just ask you a question on that then? Listen, again, I'm hosting a show, right? I'm playing devil's advocate. If I just sat here and nodded along, it would be boring. I look at Man United, and already you can see from their free friendlies, you can see, and everyone's talking about there's a completely different atmosphere in that group. He's brought in Eriksen. He's brought in Malacia. He's brought in Lisandro Martinez. They're trying to get Frankie de Jong to recreate that de Jong, Van der Beek midfield with either Eriksen or Bruno Fernandes. Ronaldo's staying there. Is there no chance at all, with them only being in, Europa League, is there no chance at all that they can creep into the top four with a couple of additional signings, or are you really not worried by them?
I know, I don't want to go back on my comment. But Ronaldo was there. Ronaldo has proven that he just disrupts sides, and the last few years, obviously, he bagged loads of goals, but he just wants everything to go through him. And I feel like, as selfish as it sounds in his respect, he knows that he still wants to be the main man there. That's why wherever he is, he's going to want to be the main man. And I just feel like there's so much going on. He knows that he's coming to the end of his playing days, and he wants to literally. He's always just to give me the ball factor. He doesn't want anyone else to get involved. New manager, obviously, there'll be a problem. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think they're going to be good enough to get that top four. I don't think. I think obviously it's Liverpool and City straight up. I don't think anyone's arguing that, and then it's going to be very similar: Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs. I don't know which order, because obviously that's just that would be mind games, and obviously I'd do the lottery if I knew that. But go on, I can see.
No. Listen. Absolutely, it's all opinions. Listen, at the moment, I would say at the moment I'd still fancy us above United. I absolutely. I do worry that if they get De Jong in, we know that the De Jong Van der Beek partnership works. Then they've got abundance of creativity with Eriksen and Bruno alone. Then with goals from Ronaldo, Sancho, is he going to come to the party? I just worry that if they then get a couple more on top of that, plus I worry that we're not going to be used to playing twice a week against top opposition. I'm just sitting on the fence.
Your own opinion.
No, hang on. Listen, I've not said they're going to finish above us. I'm just playing devil's advocate here that I think we're lots of Spurs fans are saying it as a given that we're going to be able to perform midweek, weekend. Now, if you actually look at the stats behind...
Tell you what's mental, though, is the fact that I can sit here and kind of say that, and I forget it's Man United. Like, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world.
I know.
They can attract any name. They can attract any name. They could literally have got any manager. We just got lucky at that time that they smashed us, and it could have been the other way around. We could have been having Conte over at their place.
Yeah.
It's one of them. It's like they've won everything. They can literally... it's because they've been pretty poor the last few seasons, but then still hovered around. This one, they've been awful. Some people have said, and they've still hovered around that like 5th, 6th spot, and that just shows you what they can
But
do.
that's the thing with United. That's United. I mean, I hate the word Spursy, but in terms of all of our challenges throughout whole of football, the word Spursy is probably the most challenging thing in the whole thing. Not even trophies. Screw trophies. The word Spursy is the hardest thing. Because if we play up against Man United, it's Tottenham versus Man United. Ignore what season. You're backing Man United to beat Tottenham. Done. You're backing United to beat Tottenham. Ignore what season. If I'm saying to you right now, you got United, you got Tottenham. Who's winning? You're probably going to say United. They've got the status. Like Max said, they can attract any player. With Tottenham Hotspur, it's about finishing above United. United will always give us trouble. Arsenal will always give us trouble. No matter what day of the year, they will always give us trouble. Chelsea will always give us trouble. And I think it's a healthy competition, because if they weren't in it, we'll probably be flopping off. Like, we'll be probably flopping off. Now that United, even though they're not consistent, they are still able to beat you 3-0 like they did last season. They could beat you easily. And it will be interesting to see what Erik ten Hag can actually move on to these players. I mean, they've got stars in every single position that arguably would get into Tottenham's team. And I think United are still a threat. Do I think we're going to finish top 4? I think we can, but it'll be very, very, very hard.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. I think a lot of it with United, it's the name, right? It is, unfortunately.
Just United.
It's the name. I think they've got a very good coach. I really do. I think Ten Hag's a good coach. And I think if the United fans don't expect the world in season 1, I think that they'll have a very good future under this guy. The problem is with a lot of the Man United fans that I know is that up there, they still think they're the Man United that they were under Fergie. So they go, oh, we should be winning a league. But I do think that they're going to play some good football on the way. I think they're making some positive signings. I don't think they've got enough to overtake us at this stage, but we'll revisit at the end of the window. Let me ask you then, Max. The whole playing at the weekend, playing midweek under Conte. I mean, statistically, we weren't very good whenever we had to play 2 games in a week. Yeah, everyone, do you remember all those stats were coming out going, oh, when Conte gets 6 or 7 days with his team, brilliant. When he doesn't, not very good. Is there an argument to be had that doing that week in, week out, plus against the calibre of Champions League teams, without that depth that we spoke about, is there an argument that our league form could suffer? Just asking a question.
I like the way you say just asking the question.
I have to. Max, if I don't, in the chat, all I'll read is, Sava said we're going to finish 15th. So I have to caveat. And just quickly, if I can get 19 subscribers in the next 15 minutes, I will give away a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. I am on 1371 subscribers. If I get to 1390, I will give away a Tottenham shirt from the Tottenham Club shop. I can't say fairer than that. Max, apologies.
Are you saying how we're going to cope with playing much more football, basically, with the depth that we've got? Was that part of the question?
Correct.
Oh, I think that just... I feel like we've spoke about it a little bit. We've obviously signed 6 players that we haven't had, and they're good players. So it's just, but it does come down to that question you first asked the stream, the chat, the panel. When you look at the bench, is it going to be good enough? But that's why we have to believe in Conte. That's why he's there. That's why he's the manager.
Yeah,
we've just got to go with the flow and hope that the team turn up every week in, week out, and it comes down to just what they do off the pitch as well, because we don't see a lot of things. You don't get to see behind the scenes. You just see, you turn up to the game and then you watch them play for 90 minutes and then you don't see them again until they play. So it's a lot that can happen in between. You can have falling outs that can affect a massive, as we've seen in the changing room. So there's so much that goes into this. but in depth, like you said, the teams around us have always had so much more in comparison, like someone they can bring on, and I feel like it's just going to be a roller coaster season again. We're going to want to win, we're going to want to win every game and every trophy. Like we want to compete, and the foundations are so nearly there. Can Conte do it? I'm going to bring it back and say he's done the best he can in 9 months.
Yep.
And I want, by the time the season starts, it'll be nearly a full year. Yeah. So what other manager can come in and change our mindset? Because our mindset is we want Champions League again. We want a trophy, but you don't just get there. Like Josh said, the teams in the Premier League, it's the reason it's the hardest league in the world is because it's not just a 2-dog race at the top. You could argue there's 6, 7 teams like Leicester can go and win the league. You can have shock seasons. So it's every game is tough. And I mean, we sit there. How many times have you sat there at home, both of you, and gone, "I've got home game to Brighton. Should be winning that one. 3 points."
Yeah, and then you lose it.
You lose it like 1-0.
Oh, we're Spurs. We do that all the time. Don't worry.
It's like you're thinking. Do you remember? I'm so optimistic. Trust me. I don't know if you've ever seen any of my blogs, but I'll be like, 3-0, 3-1, 4-0. Son's going to score a double. Kane, like it gets to half time, and you're thinking, "Oh, like how do we change this?" And I just don't. I am scared that might be the same situation going into the season because I just don't want it to be 75th minute against a team like Brighton at home, Burnley, and you're thinking, how do we? Because 3 points, it's so massive. The teams like Liverpool, Man City will get those 3 points. And
they find a way, right? They find a way. Just quickly, Max, you said at the beginning of this of that question, you said, I like the way you say just a question. The next chat is going to prove to you why I do it. Because people like Brian Murphy make up stuff. No one has heard me say anything of the sort that I want to buy a trophy. No one has heard me say anything about buying the best players out there. I am the one, if anything, that said, no, people like De Ligt, we won't get them. But an Undercar and a Hincapi, yes. So, Brian, with all due respect, my friend, no, I don't think anyone wants to buy a trophy. I'm going to be a hypocrite now and go, however, anytime a trophy's won, it's bought. Let me bring that point to football. Anytime a team wins, they've bought their team. They've bought their players. So every trophy is bought. Yeah. Tottenham Hotspur at the moment are sitting on 120 million for the window. Right? What did we spend? 100 million last window. Yeah. So when you're saying, do I want to buy a trophy? No, trophies are naturally bought because no club ever doesn't buy footballers. So I feel that's a really immature thing to say. And that's, Max, why I caveat all of my questions, because people like this take one thing and blow it out of proportion. Josh, now that we've...
Can I ask you a quick question? I just want to go back. I hate doing this, but I just want to go back just to what you said about Erik ten Hag. And this is actually a question for both of you. Whenever I speak on my channel, I there's one thing I very much be careful of, and it's the word manager and the word coach. For me, they're two different things completely. Pochettino, I love him to bits, but he's not a manager. He's a coach.
Agreed.
Erik ten Hag, you said he's a coach. That was your own opinion. Do you think he, like, obviously, what percentage? Also, Max, what do you think Erik ten Hag brings to United that Antonio Conte doesn't bring to Tottenham Hotspur? What does Erik ten Hag brings the coaching? Pardon?
Let me go and do my homework.
Yeah, wow. Drop a question. I think, look, let me answer this in a politician kind of way. I don't think it's about what he brings to United that Conte doesn't bring to us. I think they're very similar. What they've done, they've both gone into clubs that were desperate for an identity. Yeah, that both didn't have a style, an ethos, a way of playing. Both camps didn't seem harmonious. Man United, worse than us, feels like it's been rotten for years. I think what Ten Hag will bring to them, if allowed, is he will bring in a style of play and an ethos throughout the club, and not just the first team. He will make sure that the under-23s, the under-18s, the under-17s, all the way down to the kids, all play his way of football. It's what Barcelona do. It's what Ajax do. It's what's built into them, so that they know when a player makes the step up, he knows the position he's going into. It's not a shock. So
are we saying Conte's already done that because he's already two or 5 minutes ahead of him, because he's already implemented the system to Tottenham Hotspur and how he wants Tottenham to play? So are we saying Conte is here and Ten Hag is here?
Of course, yeah. Very difficult to judge them against each other. Look, Conte's been here 9 months, getting rid of some deadwood, bringing in a plethora of his own players. Ten Hag's been there, 3 friendlies. But I think you will see, I think it will be evident that Man United will have a style of play. And I think for 4, 5, 6 years now, when you watch Man United, I don't know what they are. They're always going to be okay because of individuals like Ronaldo. But you never watch United and go, oh, they're a pressing team, or they're a tick-attacker team, or a counter-attacking team. They're just kind of a mishmash. So I think Ten Hag as a coach will give you that. Is he a great manager? We will see in due course, right? That's the test. He's come out of his comfort zone at a club where he wins every year, where he's implemented that philosophy, and it takes time to implement that at a new club. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes, well done. Thank you, Sava. Thank you.
No worries. So
I'm glad I don't have to add anything to that.
Smashed it out of the park.
Yeah, look, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because the league is unpredictable. Man United went from 2nd to 6th in one season, right? 2nd to 6th. After buying Varane, Ronaldo, Sancho, and everyone last summer going, this is going to be a 3 or 4 horse race. And they couldn't have been more wrong.
I said United would win the league. I got that completely wrong, lads.
Lads, let's move on to this then. Just before we go to some questions that I've been starring. So if anyone's put questions in, I have starred some of them. That means I've stored them for later. I just want to talk about the next kind of incomings. Max, for you, how many more are you predicting? And do you think this is going to be a case of getting them in the next few weeks before the season starts, as the show is titled 17 Days Away? Or do you think this is going to be a couple that we get over the line as the season's already started?
I think, sat here, obviously looking at Spurs' squad on paper right now, it's hard because there's a difference to what I want and what I actually reckon will sign.
Yeah,
I feel like we've got to get rid of some of the players first. Some of the players have got to be offloaded. I can't see us signing another 30-40 million pound signing without the likes of Ndombele, Lo Celso, like some sort of deal in the offering going another way. There was a deal we haven't spoke about in it. I'm going to quickly put it out there. I want a centre-back and I want an attacking midfielder. That would be what I want. I'll tell you straight up. I want Maddison, and I honestly think there could be a deal for Pau Torres if it was Lo Celso going the other way. And would you be happy with that? Because you're firing me two players, 2 questions. What do I reckon? I'm more than happy with 2. Remember, that would be 8 signings. That's unheard of for Tottenham.
Yep.
So that's 2 positions that we definitely need. We're lacking a bit of creativity, and we're lacking obviously another centre back. And he's a name that's obviously floated around when Bastoni's not been in the mix. The fact that Lo Celso definitely obviously had a good season there, they like him. It could make it a bit of an easier deal, but that's where I'm at with it. I'm more than happy if there's 100% one more signing. I love attacking football and I love scoring goals. We score goals. I feel like we can, but it would have to be that centre back because you've hit me with enough today on this stream saying what happens if one of those get injured, and then we go back to being a bit sloppy at the back. So definitely a centre back.
Point. Yeah, it's a good point, Sav. Like, as in, what happens if one gets injured? It's a very good point. Like, what happens? We're stuck.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure Sav is probably gonna, unless he's changing the question up for you. But yeah.
Yeah. Look, Josh, same question, but I mean, Max, you're right. It falls into me, Josh, that whilst I'm an advocate of we needed to completely rip the squad out and start again in lots of places, I'm also of the point that once you start getting too many signings through the door, you've then got that grace period, right, where we go, right, well, hang on, lots of these players haven't played before. It's a dangerous game, right? It's a balance to get that right, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Look, I'm just going to agree with Max. Let's keep it short and simple. I think he's spot on there. We definitely need an attacking midfielder, which is Maddison. The only problem for me in this whole Maddison business is, are we going to...
I only say Maddison because it's the one that I've just heard. Like, I'm not saying he's the
same.
only one. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'm exactly the same. I would have Zaniolo next, but personally, because I feel like Antonio Conte is more of a manager than a coach, I wouldn't take Zaniolo. I would take Maddison, proven in the Prem as well. But something with Maddison that I'm not really keen about is I'm not keen of having a 5.7 million wages sitting on the bench if we're playing Chelsea or Man City. That's not really keen for me. I don't like that. I like that if we're going to spend money, I want to spend it on a centre-back which will guarantee start because ahead of Davis, and then find a short-term attacking midfielder to swap. But except that I agree with Max in general. I think it's a very, very good point we made about Maddison.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just quickly go to a few of the chats. Phil Pierce said, remember the other teams are improving, but so are we. Plus, we've got top four after giving everyone else a 10-game head start. So, so there's swings and roundabouts in that statement. Brian letting us know that Palace beat City. Not sure what we were talking about at that point. I complain a lot.
Like, we lost to Brighton and whatever. Like, it shows every team, there's no easy game. There's no easy game.
No, I mean, look, teams are going to lose. I mean, I always hear this example, oh, City lost. It's like, well, yeah, City are going to lose 2 or 3 a season, but I think the important thing is that they win leagues because they don't lose many games, right? They find a way to win most of the games. Them and Liverpool are brilliant at winning games when they do not play well. They've got enough. They've got 7, 8 players that can all produce that moment of magic when you need it. And look, with City, I'm going to talk about City in a minute with Haaland, but I complain a lot. Great name. Here's Savitt is using the usual theme of telling us what we said and what he didn't say, and he'll go on for an hour telling us about it. Okay, I've no idea what that sentence meant. It didn't make sense, but thank you. Keep watching. Let me ask you a question, Max. So, Tottenham Hotspur haven't won anything for. It's going to be 15 years this time next summer.
14, going to be 15, yeah.
Yeah. Mate, listen, I know. It's all up there.
I'm keeping track on my years.
Mate, don't worry. It's going to be 15 years next year. So by that 15th year, we've either got another year without or another year with. Lots of fans say this is the year we end that trophy drought. Again, sitting on the fence. Do you think that we keep using this sentence, well, we've got Conte. Mm-hmm. But Liverpool have still got Klopp, and they take the competition serious. You know, City have still got Pep. He takes all the competition serious. Tuchel is still Tuchel. They take the competition seriously. How difficult is it for Spurs to win a trophy this season? And do you think we're going to go all out for the cups, or do you think it's going to be League and Champions League?
I'm sat here saying I'd love a trophy, but like you said, it's getting tougher each season. We're obviously building a squad. Other teams around us are improving as well. Like you just name dropped Haaland as well. Like the way that the title league winners can just go and sign someone with like that sort of name is just absolutely crazy. So it's going to be so hard. I've said, we've got Conte. We've got Conte, but we thought that with Mourinho, and then we went and sacked him before we had a chance of him winning it. But obviously, it's a bit different now. I think everyone just has that feeling where we've been treated nicely. We obviously had a great end to the season. Son getting Golden Boot. We're signing players. Everything just seems to be leading up and up at the moment, where we're going into the season very confident, and there's not many times we've been able to go into the season very confident because, well, one, we didn't even know what our best 11 was. One, we didn't know when our next signing was coming from. Two, we were always saying every year, oh, if Kane gets injured this season, we're going to struggle, which is going to be it's always the case anyway. Going off topic, I know.
No, go for it.
It's just because Conte, I think I haven't seen a manager like him since I've been a Spurs fan. I've seen some exciting managers. I've seen managers that are obviously, they get the crowd going with attacking football, especially like when Poch was here. But there's the difference already I can see. I feel like Conte knows how to get a winning team, where the other teams we're going with the flow, like we're riding a wave. This time it's different. This guy, he's nutted. He said, look, I'm not here for long. I'm getting it done. This is why Levy's got this war chest, so to speak, because I feel like he knows this is the sense. This is the last time, the last manager. Like, obviously, this is just this ridiculous. I'm just talking. But if it doesn't work out, Levy is gonna. It's a downward spiral for him. This is it. We're literally at the top. I can't see. It's just exciting. I'd love to be able to look at the crystal ball right now and say, where are we going to be this time next year? Because even I'm going into the season thinking, oh, FA Cup sounds nice, doesn't it? But this isn't just Football Manager. You don't just pick a team and then you go out there and win it. But we've actually got,
of course,
it's working. Everything is, it's like an amber light. We're working our way there, and we're so nearly there. And I've said this so many times. If I got a pound for saying we're so nearly there.
It's tough, isn't it? There's so many variables to every season, especially when you're in the summer. No one knows what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be in form. We don't know which players sometimes have great seasons, sometimes bad seasons. You just don't know. Teams fall off a cliff like Man United did. Teams suddenly get a lot better. Newcastle get money. It's all changing, right? Just before I come to you, Josh, my mate Brian is back saying, Sava, all due respect, you want a big money signing. Spence is not showing ambition, you said. So showing ambition is about how much money you spend on a player. I mean, you're kind of taking my narrative and making it your own. So first and foremost, I said Spence is not showing ambition because I don't believe for a Champions League team, buying a player from the Championship is ambition. I didn't say it's a terrible signing, but it's not ambition by the sense of what the word ambition means. Second of all, when you're saying I want a big money signing, I've not once said they need to cost X amount. I'm sitting there talking about a player like Undercar that will be 25 to 30 million euros. That's not a big money signing in world football nowadays. I was talking about Christian Eriksen on a free. That's not a big money signing. So I feel like, Brian, you don't listen to what I'm saying. You're trying to put a narrative in my mouth that is very far from where I am. I'm aware Spurs can't sign the world's best. But I also do feel there's nothing wrong for how much money we pay as fans, for the lack of success we've had. I don't think there's anything wrong as fans with wanting a few top quality players. But I haven't actually said one that I want yet. So there we are. Will Stewart has said that's not how Conte plays. Sorry, not a single starting midfielder in Conte's inter squad had as many assists as his wing backs. But then we could flip that on its head and say, yeah, but he had a player like Barella in midfield. He had Eriksen. At Chelsea, he did have a midfielder that got more goals and assists than his wing backs in Fabregas. So it swings and roundabouts. Harry Hotspur saying Conte is a winner. I'll be disappointed if we're not challenging. I think Conte will be disappointed if we're not challenging. Guys, this is the thing I keep hearing. Conte may well be disappointed if we're not challenging, but it's what we said earlier. I still don't think there's enough depth to challenge. But I keep hearing Conte wants, but listen, I want to go out of Cameron Diaz. It's not going to happen. I might have to settle for someone else. I can't complain. A lot of said Paqueta and Torres, and we have to be pushing for the league title. Guys, let me ask you this, right? I think what a lot of fans forget is even if we went out there now and bought a Maddison or a Paqueta and the top centre half. Max, let me come to you first. I think one of the things that I think fans forget is Liverpool and Man City squads have been gelled for years. They know each other inside out. They know the game plan. they're all vastly experienced internationals, serial winners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Spurs fans seem to think is that you can just go and assemble 8 new players into a team in one window and win the league. That, I mean, it's not realistic, is it? Or is it?
You're spot on. It's putting 8. Like, the perfect way to like explain what you've just said is, in my head, is like, let's say you've got 10 of your best mates, you're playing football with them, and then you bring in 6 randomers from another school. I'm talking like and you don't just gel. You don't know how someone plays. But we're not the manager. This is why Conte's there. This is why we say, we all back Conte, because we trust him. He's done it. He's shown enough already towards that back at the end of the season and get us Champions League football and signing players that people weren't aware of that were going to be good. Like Kulusevski, Bentancur coming straight into our side, done bits, got us to where we wanted to be. So this is why people are saying, why can't we go out by 6, 7 more? Because we've just done it with a couple. Maybe you can do it with more. And these aren't 6, 7 players that are coming straight into they're not literally replacing every player, are they? They're just a few of them are going to be in squad rotation. So, I mean, I can't actually remember what you just said because I'm not being rude.
No worries. No, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. Josh, we didn't struggle against a low block under Conte. I seem to remember struggling a lot against low blocks, like Middlesbrough, like Burnley, like Wolves.
We definitely did. We definitely did,
didn't we? There were many games where it was like fans like going, do something, like change it up, do something different. But that's so sorry, Will. I don't know when you're saying that's another myth. I mean, Burnley at home and Burnley away, we scored 1 goal from a penalty because they sat in deep and we struggled to get in behind them.
And why was that? Why was that? Because we didn't have a creative midfielder.
I've said that many times. Listen. It doesn't even need. It doesn't even need to be a playmaker. I just feel that all the teams Conte's had in the past, he's had, as we said, he's had a Pogba, he's had a Pirlo, he's had a Barella, he's had a Fabregas. I just feel we have not got that man. We've got 4 good midfielders, but none of which that do that job. Guys, we're going to go for another 13 minutes, if that's okay. I want to get some questions. If anyone's got any questions, get them out. Will, just quickly, who are finishing above Liverpool? If they're finishing 3rd? Tottenham. Will, I'll have a grand with you right now. Liverpool finish above Tottenham. Take the bet with me. Whichever currency you want, dollars, pounds, 1 grand, we do not finish above Liverpool. Yeah. Right. Let me look at some of the questions. So one of the first questions we got, Lee from the Lane, was saying, question for the panel, looking at other teams, Chelsea being our most realistic team chased down, do you think we have hit the calibre that was expected? I don't think we have personally. Josh, we touched on this earlier.
Yeah.
Were these the calibre of players you were expecting, or were you expecting something more?
So, look, let me just tell the viewers, my Spurs knowledge goes back to AVB. Like, that's it. Andrew Villas-Boas was the first, manager I was fully into it. And look, in terms of transfers since then, there's not been many that I've been like, wow, maybe Yam Tongan and Toby Alderweireld, that'd been insane. But except for that, the transfers this season that we've gotten, I'm talking about the 6 we've gotten, it's in terms of fighting for the team. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be for fighting for the team. I believe that, I personally believe Richarlison has to fight for his place for Harry Kane. Harry Kane has to fight for his place ahead of Richarlison. There's no more Harry Kane gets in ahead of Richarlison. Obviously, everyone would put Harry Kane ahead of Richarlison, but in terms of Antonio Conte, if Harry Kane's missing all the shots in goal on training, and Richarlison scoring every single goal, Antonio Conte would pick Richarlison over Kane. So I feel like everyone should be fighting for the spot in today's game. So regarding to the question, has the players that we brought in good enough? Was that the question, Savage? Just so I understand. Oh wait, I think you're on mute.
Apologies. He was saying, is it the caliber you expected? Sorry, mate. I don't know what happened there.
Is it the caliber I expected? Yes, I'm not gonna lie, I expected. I didn't think we were gonna get anything much better than that.
Okay, Max. Be honest with me. Were you expecting this caliber? Were you expecting a bit more, less? Where's your head at?
I'm happy. I'm not going to say I'm not happy with some of the signings because I think they're good players. Richarlison, Basuma, obviously the standouts. Perisic as well. Like when we got Champions League, when we secured it against Norwich, I genuinely thought, one, we obviously weren't going to have 6 new signings now. But I thought if it was going to be a couple, it was going to be a couple of big 50, 60 million pounds that were like going to blow us away because we've got Champions League football, because it's Conte, because we can attract that and should be able to.
Yeah.
So obviously I won't go on about that. I just feel like I still feel like there's one missing. Definitely. That's everyone, like one that you're going to want to get on the back of your shirt. You know, one of those
Max,
marquee signings.
You're not allowed to want that. According to Brian Murphy, you're not allowed to want a good signing. Apparently, we're allowed to pay the highest ticket prices in world football, but we're not allowed to expect a top signing to come into our football club.
You might be in these bad books. Don't make me in these bad books.
Yeah, we've got nothing to do with it.
I tell you what makes me laugh, right, is I mean, I don't care for terminology, like people say low blocks. All I know is Spurs struggle to beat teams that defend well. I don't care about terminology like low block. When a team like Wolves set their stall, when Burnley did it, that's where I feel Spurs struggled to get in behind. We saw it a number of times. Son is not the same player when he has to run to the defence. When he's running in behind the defence, clinical. Huge difference. Kane, not the same player because he now has to drop deep and he now makes the play tick rather than actually being the guy on the end of crosses. It's not a criticism of Conte. It's a criticism of the squad that have been built before he was here. That's all I'm saying. I don't care about the wording. I don't care if it's called a low block, a mid block, all of these new terminology that fans use. I don't care for all of that. Just quickly, one thing I know that you wanted to bring up as a bit of a debate.
Yeah, a small little one, a very little one. I wanted to bring this up for quite a while.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. So it's kind of hard for me to explain, but if Harry Kane is an amazing striker, not going to say world class for Sava's sake, but amazing striker. All right. Then we got Luis Suarez, who's a world class striker. I'm going to say that he's a world class striker. Now, Max and Sava, do you think that the difference between Harry Kane and Luis Suarez is too much of a big gap that people make? As in Suarez is an elite striker. Harry Kane is amazing. But do you think that the gap between them two are a bit slightly overrated? Fans make it sound like it's a huge gap. Well, all Harry Kane needs is a couple of trophies and he's closing the gaps. What are your thoughts?
Sav? Because I could answer it very quickly and say Harry Kane's. I've already said that he's the best striker in the league, which shows how much I think of him. I think he's unbelievable. He's
in terms of career.
Are you one that think? I mean, obviously, I'm not aiming at you, but whoever thinks of this question, it always comes down to how many trophies has someone won?
Absolutely not.
Just because his club hasn't been able to win a trophy. Literally makes no difference. Like, if anything, surely it's harder to stand out in a team that doesn't win trophies, no? The fact he can literally get everyone talking and not win trophies, it just, if he was winning,
it's a good debate.
Be literally above them. He'd be unbelievable. The fact that, what else has he got to do other than win trophies? Because that's all that it ever comes down to. It's never, we can't do this, you can't do that. He can pass, he can shoot, he's best penalty taker in the world, he captains sides. The fact he gets compared to Suarez, they're kind of different. They are different players. I mean, Suarez was unbelievable in his day. Absolutely unbelievable.
Why, Max? Why was he unbelievable?
Why was he unbelievable? Because he was brilliant at his game, at his role. He was
right. And what was his role? I'm trying to get somewhere. Sorry, Sav. I know you want to say it.
I like this because you're digging, but I would say he was more of, when you think of out and out strikers, I don't think of Suarez. I always saw him as more of a. I mean, obviously, I've always seen him as he scores goals, but in my head, he's not a first player that sits there. He's not that player. He was more of like a. Where are you trying to get to, by the way? Because
okay, I'll say this. My point in this whole debate I've had with my mate, I've told Sam this, I had with my mate, is look at all the top teams in the world: Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. I can name them all. All of them have one thing in common: a creative midfielder. That's it. A creative midfielder that passes the ball to Harry Kane, to the striker in that team, and then allows him to score the goal. Harry Kane, for season after season, had to go back, create his own little thing, go back up, score goals, go back down, create the little thing, score goals. That's what it's been. And I feel like in terms of, yes, Luis Suarez has been insane. Look at the players around him who he surrounded himself with. Prime Neymar, prime Messi.
He also had Xavi Alonso, like someone.
Xavi Alonso. I mean, and then we go back to Liverpool days where he's got Mini Coutinho. We've got Steven Gerrard. We've got absolutely ballers. I mean, Sam, where do you stand on this?
I feel like you could literally talk about it for ages. 100%.
It's a difficult one. First and foremost, let's have it real. We're sitting in a room full of Tottenham fans. So it's never, ever going to be a fair debate. Look, I'll tell you what an amazing partnership it would have been, right? I feel like they're very different strikers as well. I thought Suarez had a lot of very annoyingly good qualities to his game. He seemed to be able to manage to wriggle through players and score some absolute worldies. The argument, I'm just sitting on the fence at the moment. I'm coming to Kane in a minute. Suarez, the argument is very much, well, he's done it at the top. He's done it for Barcelona. He's done it for Liverpool. He's done it for Atletico Madrid. And he's won trophies. Now, as Max was saying, very difficult to say that for Kane because Kane's not won trophies. But does that make you a worse player for not winning trophies? No. It makes you a less successful player, but it doesn't make you a worse player. They're both very, very different. I mean, listen, before the show, because I knew you were going to bring this up. I mean, you're looking at Suarez, who's got 452 goals in 730 games. And then you look at Kane, he's got 264 in 451. These are phenomenal ratios. Yeah. I think the problem Kane is always going to have, if I take my hat off, the problem he's always going to have is, as Spurs fans will always go, fans from elsewhere will always go, well, what did he win? Like Max said, that annoying, did you win?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's going to get that. And I think it's a shame if he doesn't win anything in his career. It will be a shame, when you see him like in a Sky Sports panel in the future, and it will say Harry Kane,
zero
Tottenham, 2000 and whatever to 2000 and whatever, 294 goals. That's it. As opposed to players now that sit in there like Mika Richards, that will sit in there and go, Man City this era, 2 Premier League titles or whatever he won. So it's very, very difficult, very different players. I wouldn't mind either of them in my team. And I think they'd make an amazing partnership. So does that answer your question as to who's better?
It answers. I had to bring that up because it's been with me for a long time now, and I've been speaking to a Barcelona fan, and all the comments he's been saying is, what's he won? What's he won? I'm like, oh God, come on, mate, come on.
So
absolutely.
If England went to win the World Cup, I mean, no one will be able to say anything then because that's the biggest trophy you can win in world football.
Yeah, and I agree with this from David Clark. He said Ronaldo and Messi have never won a World Cup. Does that make them worse than lesser players who have? And of course it doesn't. The argument will still always be there for legacy, But for example, I think Lionel Messi is the best player I've ever seen, the best player there's ever been. That's just my opinion, right?
Yeah.
For me, whether he wins the World Cup or not, as a collective with Argentina, doesn't change for me that individually he is the best. So it's a really futile point. Someone really quickly, I think he's put it on about 3 times now. He really wants me to read it out, so I will. I said, Sava, are you a Liverpool fan or what? Comma. Everything about them is perfect for you. Let me tell you, this one injury for Salah, Nunes, Van Dijk, Diaz, that's it for them. Listen, N17 Spurs, I feel like you've completely misunderstood the point of what I do, right? The point of what I do is if I come on here and everything is rosy and Spurs are going to win the league and Spurs are going to win the cup and our players are better than everyone else's, it doesn't really make for good debate, does it? It doesn't really make for interesting viewing. Second of all, I'm also a football fan, right? And as a football fan, I sit here, if I take my Spurs hat off and I go, right, I've got a Liverpool team here that have been challenging for the title for how many years now? A Liverpool team that were 10 minutes away from winning the Premier League and about half an hour away from winning the Champions League and doing a quad. So I don't feel to say good things about a team that nearly won a quad is actually that bad. I feel that's just an observation.
It's facts.
It's facts. I know it's not liked, but it is fact. We're going to wrap up in a couple of seconds, guys. I just want to quickly see, Will, yes, for charity. Done, locked in, absolutely locked in. You will go with Liverpool. I will go with, you go with Tottenham. I'll go with Liverpool. Win-win for me. Charity wins at the end of the day. Spurs finish above Liverpool. Great. Charity wins, and I'm happy. It's all good. Guys, any last points you want to make before we drop off?
Not much. Just great show, Sava. Great show.
Thank you. No, listen, Max, anything you want to add before I do my thank yous?
Ooh. So you don't think Spurs are finishing above Liverpool? No.
I had to stick that in. I had to dig that in.
I don't. And as I've said before,
I'm only kidding.
I know, but I'm going to give you my reason just before we go, right? I'm going to give you my reason is I feel that Liverpool have been there, seen it and done it for multiple years with this squad that they've not changed. Mane, yes, has gone. They've bought players in Diaz and Nunes, right? Now, we don't know how well they'll do. That's going to be seen. But the rest of the team is like clockwork. They know what to expect. Klopp knows what he's getting from them. They're used to playing League, Champions League. They've got a much better defence than we have. I don't think anyone can argue that. They've got a much better defence than us. They've got a better goalkeeper than us. And for me, their midfield is more well-rounded than ours, with the likes of Thiago and Fabinho. So I'm not knocking us. I would love us to finish above them. I just think this might be one season too early. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I definitely don't put my hand up and say we're finished. I think that either, by the way. I just wanted to chuck that at you, Sav, just because that was what the question was.
Sava, just let me put one thing in here. I just want to say that Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted that Tottenham will not open talks to sign Jesse Lingard. Yeah,
good.
That's it. Just put that out there.
Yeah, good. And again, it's all opinions. Listen, I come here, I let everyone have their comments. I read out as many comments as I can. Guys, just leaves me to say, sorry, Messi is the best player of all time. What a joke. Oh, okay. Max, first of all, thank you very much. First time on the show. Listen, will you come back on again when the season starts after the first couple of games, see where we are?
Of course, mate. Of course. It's been good to obviously talk all things Tottenham. And hopefully we can actually talk and say everything we spoke about. Say, oh, yeah, Spence is good. We can't wait to see more. And maybe we've got that. Maybe we've got that centre back, and then maybe we've got that attacking midfield. There'll be obviously. There's always with Spurs plenty to talk about, isn't there? As you know, so.
Absolutely. Look, if you're at the first game of the season, I'll be there as well. Let's grab a beer somewhere. And we'll take it from there. So thanks very much for that. Josh, thanks as always, my friend. You're always a big help to me on Instagram as well. So I appreciate that. And we'll get you back on again in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Great speech, guys.
Thank you to everyone in the chats. Thank you for all the likes, for the subscribing, for the comments, for the super chats, everything. It's been much appreciated. Thank you. And I'll see you, anybody, tomorrow night. Saverin Wright. I'm with Henry Wright live. And we'll be doing our Champions League and transfer show, not about Tottenham. Thank you and good night.